In this video, I'm sharing 3 surprising factors you might be missing that could save you a lot of frustration, especially if you've been watching your diet and exercising and still not seeing the blood sugar results that you want. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ladine Bartheless, the founder and CEO of Wellness Embodied, with over 20 years experience in education, counseling, social and emotional wellness. I'm also a certified health and wellness coach, supporting individuals in achieving vibrant health. Today, I'm excited to share with you how I've been able to support my clients with lowering their blood sugar, getting out of the pre-diabetic range, using the 3 factors that I am about to share with you in this video. So before you tune this out and you say, I don't have blood sugar issues, this video is not for me, I want you to know this year the CDC said that 1 out of every 3 adults in the US are pre-diabetic, and many of them are not even aware of it. So whether it's you personally, it's likely someone that you know, and I'm sure that this content will be supportive. So listen in, we're about to dive right in. So before I jump into the 3, let me just give you a caveat here. Although I am not talking about diet and exercise, those 2 factors are absolutely critical. It makes a significant difference what we put in our bodies. It actually matters that we eat real food. It actually matters that the foods that we eat support our well-being and support our blood sugar. So I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, and it absolutely matters that we exercise, that we move our bodies, that we move energy through our bodies, and that we make sure that we give it the opportunity to be as healthy as it can be. And so I am not saying that diet and exercise doesn't matter and it doesn't work, but what I am saying is that oftentimes it is not enough. So if you have been doing those 2 and you're still not seeing results, you probably need to lean into 1 or all 3 of the ones that I'm about to share. So let's dive in. Number 1, let's talk about supporting your gut microbiome. And so let's make sure that we're on the same page when we are talking about the gut microbiome. There's been a lot of conversation about it lately, and so I want to make sure that we're all clear on what we're talking about. We say the gut, we are literally talking about the intestines. And when we talk about the microbiome, biome is really the community that exists within the intestines. It's the ecosystem, and the micro is all of the microorganisms that are at play and in the community that have to play nice together and balance one another out within your gut. And so when we talk about the gut microbiome, it really is about the balance that we have within the bacteria, whether good bacteria, bad bacteria, yeast, all of that happens within the gut. And so let me tell you a few things that happens within the gut. So the bacteria influences your appetite. Bacteria also influences blood sugar production, and bacteria eats sugar. Now, when we have a plethora of sugar, it becomes a problem because the body really wants a level of balance. But bacteria really does eat the blood sugar. And then the other piece is that bacteria helps your body process the sugar, and it also determines the rate by which your body processes the sugar as well. So you can start to see when there's an imbalance of the bacteria within your gut, it's going to disrupt all of those different processes, blood sugar regulation, how it processes blood sugar, your appetite. It's going to have an impact on all of those different processes within your body. So let's talk about some of the ways in which this microbiome becomes imbalanced. Antibiotics. So if we are using antibiotics, and yes, antibiotics is something that is absolutely critical for infections and to support us in recovering from different sicknesses and illnesses that we have. But when the antibiotics come in, it does not just kill the bad bacteria, it annihilates everything. And so as a result, we end up with a microbiome that is no longer balanced. And so as a result, it needs time to repopulate itself and get back to the place where it's doing everything that it's supposed to actually support us. The other thing to know about our gut microbiome is that it houses 70% of our immune system. So if we are to stay well, if we are to deal with flus and colds and viruses, then we need a gut microbiome that is balanced. So antibiotics is one, right? Another thing that actually impacts the balance within our gut microbiome is stress, right? Stress, low activity, all of that impacts the gut microbiome. And then another piece that I'll add is low diversity of foods. So if we are eating the same 5 things for the most part, and not bring a diversity of colors and foods and plant foods and spices, then our gut, it doesn't have the opportunity to develop a robust opportunity to populate the flora within the gut. And so as a result, we really want to eat a high degree of diverse foods. So let me give you some strategies that you can use as you are thinking about your gut microbiome. Use a probiotic, and use a good probiotic. And by that I mean, if you're taking a probiotic and you don't feel a difference in your digestion, in your gut, you're still experiencing a lot of bloating, it's possible that your probiotic is not working. And so for myself, I use Just Thrive. Not sponsored by Just Thrive, something that I've used that's made a difference for me. I feel the difference when I use it. I feel the difference when I don't use it. And several of my clients have been able to use it as well, and they have seen the difference also. So if you're using a probiotic, you see a difference, you feel a difference, continue using it. We absolutely need it, whether we're on antibiotics or not. Because of all of the stressors that we take in through life, we all need a probiotic on a consistent basis. But if you're looking for one, I would really recommend you try Just Thrive, and I will put a link in the description below. Another thing you want to do to support your gut microbiome is to start to increase the diversity of the foods that you eat. Start to increase the colors that you see on your plate. Add some reds and greens and yellows. Add some more spices. Use cinnamon and ginger and turmeric. All of these different spices and foods will continue to populate your microbiome and help it to maintain balance, really support the processes that can help with blood sugar regulation. Number 2 is stress and the way in which we are managing stress. And so one thing that I'll say about stress is that oftentimes we think just about acute stress. And that's the stress that happens after an incident occurs. Let's say we've lost a job, or we've gone through a divorce, or we've had a baby, or we've bought a new house. It doesn't have to be a bad situation, but when it's a situation that causes significant change, it is an acute stressor, and we feel that stress as we engage in these different activities. But what we don't always recognize is that when we have chronic low-level stress, meaning that there are stressful situations happening in our lives consistently, we don't always recognize that it has a significant impact on our bodies. And what I'll say is, even if we are managing them well, even if the outside world looks at us and says, you are managing all of that pretty amazingly. How are you doing that? Or how are you managing all of that? And it doesn't look like we are stressed on the outside. If we are not processing, reflecting, making sure that we're working through the challenges of the stress that we are engaged in, it is operating in our bodies as if we are managing acute level stress. The body doesn't say, oh, this stress is a little less and this stress is a lot higher. It just sees it as stress and it processes it just the same. And so when you are stressed, the body releases adrenaline and cortisol, and many of us know the cortisol is the stress hormone. Also, we have probably heard that cortisol is the hormone that packs on the weight around the middle section. But what we may not know is that when the body is releasing cortisol, the liver in response is now releasing sugar. So not only are we taking in sugar from the foods that we eat and the body is processing that, but the liver is now releasing sugar because of the over dumping of cortisol that's happening in our bodies. So stress is an absolute game changer when it comes to blood sugar and the way that we're able to manage our blood sugar as well. So let me give you some factors that can support you in actually managing stress in your life. Number one, find ways to process the stress. Maybe it's journaling. I like to say if it's on the paper, it's off the mind and off the heart. So journaling is a great way to work through some of the, incidents, minor hits that may have happened throughout the day that you really want to start to work through. Another way is movement. Sometimes if we could just get out and get some of the stuck energy out of our bodies when we are in a stressful situation, it's enough for us to be able to think more clearly, come up with solutions, and probably land in a place where we are more relaxed than we were before we moved. The other thing is breathing. Breathing is an excellent way to begin to work through, step into our parasympathetic, support the nervous system by being able to breathing in some oxygen, breathing out and exhaling a little bit longer than the inhale, because that truly does support the rest and relax and really leads into the parasympathetic of your nervous system as well. So, and one thing I'll say about breathing is sometimes people take a couple of breaths and they're just like, oh, this thing isn't working. What I'll say is take 10 breaths, right? Take 10 breaths and see if you feel a little different. For some people, breathing is not the thing that will support them in that moment. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's walking, but try the breathing as well and see if that's something that can become available to you as well. Another thing that I will say is helpful for stress is asking for help when you need it. We live in a society, oftentimes, if we are in the US, we live in a society where we are celebrated for doing it all on our own. We're celebrated for being the individuals who get it all done. And what I'd like to say, and what I've seen for myself and what I've seen with my clients, is that healing happens faster in community. It happens faster when we're willing to say, I need some support, when we're willing to delegate, whether it's at work, when we're at home, as a parent, when we're willing to say that I need support and not have to be on all the time. Asking for help can be the very thing that will shift the level of stress that you are operating within. So I want to encourage you, when you look at your life and you see how much you are managing, where can you get support? Who can you delegate? Where can you stop having to do it all? It will shift so much for you when it comes to stress. The last piece is say no to just one more thing. If you already know that your plate is full and someone comes to you and asks for support, you may not have it to give, and that's okay. All right, so I want us to really start thinking about, how do we say no, choosing to say no to the extra thing that we know we don't have room to take in. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person, doesn't mean that you're not a kind person, doesn't mean that you're not someone that serves, but you know for yourself that you are already at your limit. And when someone comes to you and asks, it is a request, it is not a demand. And so in your head, find out, figure out, trust your heart. If it's just like, this is too much, just say no. The right people will understand. And if they don't understand, then bid them goodbye and just keep moving. All right? Remember, every time you say no to something that is not beneficial to you, you say yes to your well-being and yes to your wellness. So start saying the no's that give you the yeses so that you're living a less stressful life. The last one is sleep. Yes, sleep. It has taken me up until being an adult, around this big age of mine, to know that stress is a necessity and not a luxury. It is something that your body critically needs to function. So let me tell you a few things that sleep does for us. First of all, it's responsible for cellular and tissue regeneration and repair. It is where your body heals itself. It is where it recovers. It's where the muscles that you worked out during your hard workout, it's where the repair happens. So when we are not sleeping and resting, we're not giving our bodies the opportunity to regenerate and to rebuild itself so that it can be better and ready for the day ahead. So you absolutely need that, and that happens in sleep. Another thing is that it does is blood sugar regulation. So oftentimes when we think about managing our blood sugar, we think just food, or we think if we're at a certain point where we need medication, we think we just need a pill. But what I'm here to tell you is, if you can get into your mind, if we can get into our minds that sleep is absolutely necessary for our bodies to do what it needs to do to regulate blood sugar, then we will have a better opportunity to manage that aspect of our lives. So blood sugar regulation happens and is supported by quality sleep. Another thing is that it strengthens your immune system. It's not surprising that when we have a cold or a flu or a virus, that the doctor would say you need rest, you need fluids and rest. That's usually what they say, right? So rest is where the body heals, where it repairs, where it becomes its best body. So we need the sleep to actually get better. So think about yourself and how much sleep you're getting or not getting. It's likely having an impact on what you're seeing in terms of blood sugar numbers. The other thing is that it helps with memory. So if you are someone who, memory is something that is becoming a concern to you, there's a ton of brain fog, you can't quite pull it together as it relates to just remembering a lot of things, you want to start to ask yourself, how well am I sleeping? So one thing that I want to point out here is everyone always thinks about, we need to get about 7 to 9 hours of sleep as adults. And so that's kind of been pounded into us for the most part, like we need 7 to 9 hours as adults. But what I want to say here is, it is not just the quantity of sleep that you get, but the quality of sleep is absolutely critical. When we sleep, we cycle through 3 phases. We cycle through deep sleep, REM or REM sleep, and then a phase of light sleep, or for those of you who have Apple Watches, it's called core sleep. And so you need all 3 of these phases within your cycle to make sure that you are benefiting from all of the benefits of sleep. Because memory happens in one phase, cellular regeneration happens in another. I could do another video on sleep a little bit more. There's also a ton of folks out there who are doing some pretty significant work around sleep. I'll actually mention one. Shawn Stevenson has a book, Sleep Smarter. I'll put it in the description box below. But that book is pretty significant in letting you know how critical sleep is and how you can get a better quality and quantity of sleep. If you are in bed for 7-8 hours but tossing and turning the entire time, it's likely that you're not getting the quality of sleep that you need to support all of the bodily functions that need to be supported. So outside of a smartwatch and outside of, wearables that could let you know your data, I will just say this one thing. When you wake up, do you feel refreshed? And if the answer is no, even if you have been laying in bed and sleeping for 10 hours, it is very likely that the quality of your sleep is compromised for some reason. So really think about that. When you wake up in the morning, you should wake up refreshed. And if that's not happening, there's potentially something happening within your sleep that's not allowing your body to do what it needs to support all of the functions, including blood sugar, that can help you to be well when you wake up the next morning. So let me give you a few strategies for sleep. Number 1, let me ask you a question. Do you go to sleep or do you fall asleep wherever you are? If you're falling asleep with the TV on, falling asleep scrolling, then that is not going to benefit you in getting high quality sleep. So strategy number 1 for this is just go to sleep. Find a regular time that you can actually go consistently to sleep. And that will allow your body to become familiar with when it is time for myself to rest and relax. Our bodies love consistency. It loves routine. So when we can begin to build that routine of sleep around the same times, your body will begin to fall asleep better, get better sleep, and wake up more refreshed. So what I would say is go to sleep instead of fall asleep. Another big tip for you, now this one might be a little hard, but it will have a benefit. Keep the devices out of your room. So take the laptops, take the iPads, take the phones out of the room, because what this begins to do is, first of all, we have less screen and blue light coming at us as we're in bed about to sleep. But the other thing is, it begins to program your mind to know that when I am in this space, I'm in this space to sleep. I am in this space to rest and relax. And so taking the screens out begins to program your body to really begin to benefit from the time that you're in that room and to be well and to sleep well in that space. Go ahead and take the devices out of your room and designate your sleeping space as sacred space where your body has the opportunity to recover and rejuvenate itself and get you ready for the best day ahead. So there you have it. 3 factors that we might be missing when it comes to regulating our blood sugar: supporting the gut microbiome, stress, managing that stress, and then sleep. So if any of those, I'd love to know which of those actually is kind of the aha for you. Which one have you possibly been missing on your journey to health? And then which strategy might you try to actually begin to address that factor? So I'd love to hear that from you. Drop it in the comments. If this has been beneficial to you, definitely like the video, share it with a friend, subscribe if you haven't. Love to have you on this journey with me. And remember that we are here reclaiming our health, embracing our power, and living a life that we love. Until next time, to our collective transformation. Take care.